Hello, Abigail here with another Pick a Pile reading. This reading is What Cycle is Ending? I will say, because endings and beginnings rarely have a delineation, we will probably also get into beginnings, but I really wanted to focus on the close of something. I channel the topics of these readings beforehand, and this is what came forward. How we're going to do this is I will go over the crystal in the card, and you can use that to pick your pile. If you already know, you can jump to the timestamps. We're going to get into which pile might be for you. Use your intuition. If you get into a pile and it doesn't sound or feel like you, please, please, please feel free to jump to a different pile. That's important as well. So let's get into it. Starting off, we have this clear crystal point. This is about amplification, clarity, cleansing, just a lot of powerful energy. Clear quartz is very common and also very kind of underrated in the crystal world. I always suggest having clear quartz around. It just makes everything better. And the card associated is the fifth house. These are astrological cards, and I'm also an astrologer, so I thought this would be fun. Next one, we have Serpentine Tumble. I love Serpentine. It's about transformation, rebirth, death, change, associated with snakes, if you didn't get it from the name. But this is the perfect stone for a reading like this. And we also have Chiron, which is a planetoid in astrology. This is associated with trauma and pain and wounding. Oh, also the fifth house, since I didn't cover that, is associated with creativity and the kind of ego and the source of self. It's not one-to-one, but it is associated with the zodiac sign Leo. So it is about how you kind of project your light into the world. Then we have this purple mica. I think it's called perlite, but don't take my word for it. But this is a beautiful stone for like magnifying desire and manifestation. Stone is kind of a loose phrase. It's a bunch of little sheets of mineral cramped together. But I love it. It's beautiful. And the card for this is Uranus. So these are your piles. Pile number 1, pile number 2, pile number 3. Pick your pile and I will see you at your perspective 1. Hello, pile number 1. Welcome to your reading. These are the decks I'm going to be using to explore what cycle is ending. We firstly have the Tarot of the Divine here. We also have the Lost Oracle, the Greenwich Oracle, and the Wild Unknown. Make sure I get this right. The Wild Unknown archetypes. So we're going to use these to figure out what is ending, how it's ending, any advice for kind of moving through this ending, maybe a little sneak peek into like what's coming in next. We're going to start with our Wild Unknown. Actually, we're going to start with putting this over here and talking about this card for a minute. So this is the fifth house. I kind of mentioned it in the intro, but in case you skipped over that, this is about creativity and joy. It's often associated with children. It's associated with Leo, the zodiac sign. It's not technically one-to-one, but it's a way to understand the house system if you're struggling, actually. And I find it to be helpful. You just have to understand that it's not literally the sign of Leo. So joy, ego, the ways in which you kind of project your light into the world. I think this is very exciting for this pile, especially with clear quartz, because it feels like this cycle that is ending is opening you up to a new beginning around self-expression, around joy, around creativity. It feels very, very good, like a very good ending. Now, maybe the ending is hard, but the ending is going to open up a lot of stuff for you. With a circular deck, take that one. So yes, we have the ocean, which I love. We also have a sand dollar up here. This is about a deep internal spiritual journey, a deep connection to emotions, to depth, to the unknown. It feels like this ending may not be super obvious. You might be like, what's ending? There's not an ending. I can't tell that there's an ending because the ocean is so vast that it can obscure things. So just know that if you aren't feeling this ending yet, that it has been creeping up on you, kind of like the tide. And in this moment, you may not see a direct delineation of like where and when it ends and starts, but looking back, you're going to go, oh, that was when this cycle was happening. We're going to get a little more into that, but I want to continue to draw. What I might do is just go ahead and draw all of our oracle first, so this isn't so choppy. I'm always trying new ways of doing these readings that align best with my energy. Tend, maintenance, encouragement, and guidance. Okay. Starting to take shape. We'll do 2 of these. Rosemary, remembrance, loyalty, faithfulness. Okay, okay. 1 second. I gotta deal with my doggo here. He's gotten one of his treats. You can't have it anymore, baby. It's too dangerous. He's tore up one of his treats. Not really a treat, more like a toy, and it's at the point where it's not safe. It's okay, baby. Basically like taking a precious toy from a toddler. He is not pleased. Furnace, take action. I think that's all I'll draw from these decks. Okay, so we'll bring our Tarot of the Divine, which we'll pull in a little more chill fashion, but I want to look at these for a second. Like I said, it does very much feel like this is a transition, and a pretty like extended one. It's not going to be like an immediate shift, but I think you're going to know that you're on the other side of it, or you're coming into the new cycle when you start to feel like taking action. Because with the ocean, there is this element of kind of going with the flow of things. I feel like this ending is a very natural ending. This isn't kind of a shock. This isn't a surprise. With the maintenance, encouragement, and guidance, this is, while it's the ending of a cycle, it's a transition rather than something being cut off or something being finalized. We have remembrance, loyalty, and faithfulness, and it's got a Victorian morning lock in here. Morning locket. There's hair braided on the inside. And so it is going to be a bittersweet goodbye. It's definitely kind of an ending that you're going to cherish down the years, one where you're like, oh, this is a phase of my life that's now over. And while I know the reason why it's over and that, you know, we need to kind of move forward, there's also an element of being like, oh, I really valued and really cherished that time, even in the moment. There's an element of like connection. You're going to have a lot of nostalgia about this place in like future years. It's not going to be one of those like, thank God it's over ones. So if you're feeling like you are wanting to thank God that it's over, then maybe go to a different pile. With furnace, take action. You're going to, like I said, you're going to know that this is over when you feel the impetus and feel the need to shift and change and move. And you're kind of just floating right now. But I sense, and like I say in every single one of these readings with this stuff, like you're going to kind of know your own place in this. Are you at the beginning of this transition? Are you at the middle of it or at the end? If you're at the end, you're going to have started to do stuff. If you're at the middle, I sense that you're going to be kind of just kind of reconsidering things. 1 second. Here, I'll introduce you to my small dog since he wants to be seen. This is Reggie. If you hear any weird noises or if I ever sound like I'm straining, it's because I'm picking him up to put him back on the couch for like the 10th time. I took his toy, so now he's looking for it. Reggie, it is not safe. Anyways, after the Reggie interlude, if you're in the middle, I think you're going to be feeling a sense of push and pull and nostalgia. And if you're at the beginning of this transition, there's definitely an element of feeling like doors are closing, but not understanding why, especially with this tend, with maintenance, encouragement, and guidance. I do sense with the tend that some of the things that you're tending are going to die off, and that's why this transition is happening, but it's not going to be like a violent or aggressive dying off. It's going to be a gentle end, if you will. If you can't tell, I just moved my dog again. So know that this process is not going to be a harsh one. Know that this is for your betterment. Know that this cycle is ending so that you can start something new and fresh and magical. I want to get into the tarot to kind of ask what specifically is ending, what are some signs that things are ending. We've already kind of dipped into it a little bit. Okay. Yeah, so we have, this is really interesting, Seven of Cups, Ten of Wands, Two of Swords. You're going to feel done. You're going to feel very done with this. Not necessarily in a like, oh, I hated every minute of it, but with Seven of Cups, you're going to start to see other opportunities and start to feel held back by this cycle and start to feel as though, oh, if I stay where I am, I can't do all of these other new, fun, and interesting things. And so this cycle ending is going to really come home to you and be really obvious when you start to see these endings and when you start to see opportunities open up that if you don't move forward, you will miss out on. Now, with the Two of Swords, you will have to pick a specific opportunity. You will have to make a decision, a choice around this. And that I think is going to be your threshold, is you choosing to move forward. And in the moment, kind of like I said with the ocean, you may not be fully aware that the choice you're making has such a big impact, and that's okay. You don't need to know. You just need to pick back to the ocean, back to, the whole kind of ethos of these cards. You have to go with the flow of your emotions. You need to go with what is setting you on fire, what is making you feel like moving forward. You don't need to move until something is appealing enough to move, if that makes sense. There's no rush here, but you are going to get kind of done with something that maybe in the past felt a little like felt better and like felt more whole, and then you get to a point where you're like, oh, I'm finished with this, I'm over it, in a sense. Knight of Cups. I'm going to swiftly switch these over so we get more space. So you have the Hermit and the Knight of Cups. A part of this transition, I do think, is you feeling a little more isolated. The fifth house does tend to feel a bit more populated, if you will. But I think in this case, you are going to feel a little isolated because you are going to be moving away from certain patterns and habits. And that will also kind of naturally move you from certain relationships and connections. Doesn't mean your life is getting completely cleared out, but it does mean that you're transitioning and moving into a new phase, into a new situation. And this kind of stasis is a part of the signs that that's coming, especially with the ocean. If you think about it, especially when you're on the surface of the ocean, it can feel very isolated. Like if you're on a little boat in the ocean, you are very much alone. It's giving very much hermit energy. And so if you start to feel more isolated and lonely, know that it's about this kind of slowing down before you pick back up. And also because we have the Ten of Wands, you do need to rest a bit, because no matter how much you may or may not have enjoyed this cycle that is ending, you've definitely gotten burnt out in the process. And so the message from Spirit here is like, take your time to rest in between this, because I'm also sensing, we'll pull some more cards, but I'm sensing that the next cycle is going to be quite swift and coming quite fast, especially because we have the Knight of Cups. Once the show gets on the road in the next cycle, things are going to start to happen quite quickly. So really value the downtime. And I know it can be hard to value the downtime, especially with the topic being the fifth house. This is about energy and the source of things and raising energy. If you want to look at like where your energetic center lies in the chart, besides where your sun might be, it is in the fifth house. I often find that the fifth house also has a lot to say about how much energy you have. So if you have like an earth fifth house, you might have like a slower energetic process, or at least need for more downtime between energetic stuff. Whereas if you have like a fire fifth house, which is very attuned to fire energy, you might be someone who just kind of barrels through things a lot and is constantly creating energy. So it is going to probably feel a bit frustrating for this group because you do have the fifth house, but know that you're about to get into the Knight of Cups that is going to be moving you forward towards your passionate desires and dreams. And that's why, pardon me, it's so important early on for you to really get attuned to what you want. Because once we get on this path, it's going to be a little difficult to readjust. Excuse me while I take a sip. Let's see. Yep. Yeah. I was like, I know there's going to be an abundance card next. Yeah, because when things start to shift and move, they're going to take off. Now, I want to be clear because we have the remembrance, loyalty, faithfulness, and tend over here. This ending isn't like everything from the past is blown up. You're not carrying anything over. It's just you shifting into a different phase, a new iteration of a journey you're already on. That comes through in the Hermit. That also comes through with a Knight of Cups. With this Knight of Coins, though, this is a new level of attainment and requires a different level of energy. And that's kind of where we're going. And that's why we have the furnace here with take action, because once this transition is over, once this cycle ends, you are going to be moving. And that's why this hermit phase is so important. It's because you really have to allow yourself to kind of prepare and to gear up for the next phase. And if you don't, you might get here and end up back here, which is something we do not want for you. So just an important note to like value the rest that you get, even if it can feel frustrating, which I know it definitely can. All right, so I think I want to ask a specific question. What is something, pile number one, is leaving, before I give an answer, leaving behind in this cycle? Knight of Swords, that's an interesting one. Swords, that's what you're leaving behind. With the Knight of Swords, I think you are leaving behind impulsive action. The fifth house can be a place of impulse, right? Because you're moving off of the ethos of self, off of creativity and joy, and that can cause like very quick reactions to things. But I think you are kind of slowing down and really connecting and attaching to your own flow in life, and that is going to slow you down a little bit. Now, doesn't mean you're not going to get the stuff that you want. It just means that you're moving at a different pace. And so you're moving away from this Knight of Swords energy. You're moving away from rushing into things without considering your own feelings specifically, because we are connected to a cup here and we have the ocean there. So in this next phase, you feel a bit more stable. You feel less flighty. It doesn't mean it's boring, doesn't mean it's not fun. It just means that you have a bit more control over the energy and over where things are going. And so you're not making so many snap decisions, which I think is going to be real nice for your nervous system and also carries on our kind of hermit theme without blocking progress. All right, what will pile number one gain from this new cycle? Or rather, what, not from the new cycle yet, gain from this cycle ending? What will pile number one gain from this cycle ending? Seven of Wands. Yeah, you're going to gain patience. You're going to gain tenacity. You're going to gain the ability to push forward. This last cycle taught you a lot about patience, taught you a lot about consistency. It also feels like it taught you a lot about putting in energy, and this isn't necessarily something I'd advocate for all the time, but putting in energy when there's not necessarily a payback. I'm not necessarily talking about relationships here, because I think in relationships you should get something back, like you should have like reciprocated care or someone who loves you. But I think putting out energy and putting out stuff just for yourself without expecting a massive return, without with even sometimes knowing that what you are sending out isn't going to get fully accepted and received, but it's important for you to put this out into the world. It's important for you to see your labor seen. And so, while I think in this next cycle, especially with the Nine of Coins, you are going to actually get a lot of visibility for your accomplishments. This past cycle has taught you how to maintain hope and passion and consistency when you're not getting any feedback, when you're not being handed things like nice stuff, basically, when you're not given attention for the things that you do, so that when you do start getting the attention, you are not swayed by it. You don't feel the need to change your strategy when criticism comes, because attention also means criticism. When criticism comes, you might not enjoy the feeling, or you might like have to put boundaries around, but you know yourself so well that you're not like, oh, someone criticized me, now I have to change my whole thing. And that's where I think the rosemary comes in, is this steadfastness that you have gained in this last cycle. And we often kind of associate steadfastness with like boring. But in the fifth house, it's this ability to kind of create and produce without needing constant affirmation. And I'm not saying affirmation is bad, affirmation is necessary. But you have learned, I'm specifically hearing from spirit, you have learned to find water in the desert in this last cycle. And so even if you get starved for attention, even if people aren't singing your praises, you will continue to do your creative process and to do the things that you love, because you are committed to those things, rather than because you're getting praise or adoration or any type of outside physical source, which is going to make you a really stable creator moving forward. And you might be like, Abigail, I'm not in the creative field. Creation simply means the stuff you put out in the world. It could be your job. You could literally just work as a data analyst, but like you have learned to do your work in silence. And also, I think you've learned, especially since we're leaving the Knight of Swords behind, you've learned not to share your business so much. And this is coming from a endless business sharer, so don't feel like I'm coming for you. But like sometimes we don't need everyone to know what we are doing. And I think this is a message from spirit reminding us that like some people don't have their best of intentions, and sometimes keeping quiet is good. All right, so now we're going to ask, what are we gaining from the new cycle? What is the new cycle bringing in for us? Interesting. Nine of Wands. I want to pull clarification for this, because that wasn't necessarily the energy I was feeling, but the cards are speaking. Death. Okay. Fascinating. So, with this Knight of Wands, this new cycle is bringing us a very strong awareness of our limitations, of our boundaries, of the things we want and of the things that we don't want. It's also obviously a bit of a holdover from the Seven of Wands, where this Nine of Wands is us kind of perfecting this ability to be tenacious, to experience tenacity. And also with the Death card, I think this last cycle taught us that death is not bad. It taught us that we don't have to fear endings, and that endings often bring us some of the most transformative magic, even if in the moment it's not the most fun experience. One more. And the Tower. Yeah, this new cycle is firstly vastly different from the old one. And while I think this transition, the exit is very smooth and very regulated, once you get into this new cycle, everything changes. Everything is different. Everything shifts. The barriers that you once experienced are gone. And so you're having to navigate this kind of boundaryless space. And within that is this ability to navigate death and turnover and other people's feelings. And it just feels like you're going to be receiving, especially with the Tower, a massive amount of energy, which is what this last phase has set you up for. This last phase has set you up to be able to handle large amounts of energy and to know when to rest. Because last time you didn't, and this time you're going to definitely need to. Well, one last clarification for what the new cycle is bringing in. You're like, Abigail, this sounds like we went from something good into something bad. Not necessarily. You went into something necessary into something that's also necessary. So what is the new cycle bringing in? So we have Three of Swords, Seven of Coins. The new cycle is bringing in a need for you to process. These changes are going to force you to face things that you haven't faced, This last phase was definitely more chill, for sure. Definitely about you building resilience, about you figuring things out as you move forward. And this next phase is you moving into your power and learning how to manage large amounts of energy. Now, with Three of Swords, this is going to trigger you. This is going to cause you great emotional distress and also bring up past emotional distress. But with the Seven of Coins, you are going to find, because of the Seven of Wands that you've learned from, you are going to find a way to move forward and to progress consistently and to grow over time. Basically, your next cycle is you learning that the race is not always to the swift and that it is better to face things head on than to avoid them. Not that I think you were avoiding them in the last cycle, but the last cycle you were definitely a more what word am I trying to say? Impressionable version of you. And in this next cycle, you were definitely more of a powerhouse. The Death card and the Tower card, I don't necessarily think are things that are happening to you, although I do think a lot of big events are going to happen in your next cycle. I think it's the energy you are embodying. You have become the Tower, you have become the Death card. And that's incredibly powerful. And part of the reason you're becoming this is because you have processed and created processes to manage your emotional pain, to manage your heart, to create helpful processing systems for yourself. And so I encourage you not to see this as a bad thing. You have become nemesis, is what I'm hearing. You have become the thing that people fear in a sense because you're not afraid anymore. And you can face these things with courage and with tenacity. And instead of having to overcome all the time, you are creating a life that requires other people to face themselves. And while that is going to be a bit difficult emotionally and interpersonally, it is who you have and have always been meant to be, is to be kind of a mirror for other folks. And you already have been that, but now you're like a mirror that people can't penetrate, that people can't take advantage of. All right. So let me see. Let's do a final little check-in. What is the guidance for pile number 3 during this transition, during this phase? The moon, which I think is very appropriate next to the hermit. The Knight of Wands reminds me very much of the furnace over here. Someone wanted to come out. They'll come out when they need to, though. Oh, now they're being shy. All right, fine. Don't come out of the pile. I think it's this one. Yeah. And the Chariot. Yeah. You got to go in to move out is what's coming through. And also, this Knight of Wands is very 5th house. You have to connect this energy of passion and joy. And a part of that is by going inward and asking yourself what you truly want. And so really asking yourself what you want and what you need is really important in this cycle. Also, acting on instinct is important. Yeah, we're not acting on impulse anymore, but we are acting on instinct, which is very different. Impulse is just doing something just because, and like in a snap decision moment, just taking whatever. Acting on instinct is going with what your body is telling you, going with what your intuition is telling you. And with the Chariot, it's also like, I don't know that you have to do that much to move through this transition because you're already well on your way. You're already being moved through, you're already being processed, you're already being shifted. And so the cycle that is ending is a time of growth and almost slowness, I'm hearing, that you are going to remember fondly and you're going to see as a really huge time and cycle where you learned a lot of how to take care of yourself and how to move forward. And what you're moving into is you stepping into your power, is you doing what you want for you in pretty much all situations, in you kind of taking on the energy and the power of lightning with these 2 lightning rods right next to each other, of like lightning and force and doing what you want in a regulated way. So yes, you are nemesis, but you are doing it in a practical way. I also think it's interesting that we have 3 7s. So 777 might be really important. It might also be an angel number that comes up for you in this process. We also have 14 here, which is divisible by 7. We do have 2 9s, well, 3 9s. We also have 3 9s, 999. So 999 might also be an important number for you around this time. Just, you know, log those little things away, these little important synchronicities that come through. But your guidance is to listen more to yourself, to continue on this journey, to take the time, especially with the hermit peeking out under here, to take the time to sit with yourself, to get clear on your desires, because once you get into this next phase, you are moving full steam ahead. You are power, you are force to be reckoned with. And I encourage you to step into that power. Is everyone going to like it? No. But not everyone is meant for you, and you shouldn't be tailoring yourself to random people's desires and opinions. I do sense that some of you might have an online presence, and this is about you continuing to be authentically yourself as you gain more power, as you gain more traction. And if these are in other parts of your life, it is the same. Say you're creative and people are starting to see your work more. This is about you staying true to your own voice. If you are working a job and you are climbing the ladder, this is about you not kind of falling into like pandering to the system and sticking to your principles as you start to get closer to the top, where principles can tend to slip a little bit. So hold fast to the fifth house essence of you, to your ethos, to your uniqueness. And you will become, and you are becoming, a force to be reckoned with in the universe, in this material world. And while I do think there are some difficulties ahead, you have already learned how to face hardship. And this is about you learning how to face hardship specifically when it like comes to you in a positive way. When hardship isn't like when you're dealing with difficult things, but it's like, oh, these things are difficult because things are going well, versus your last phase, which felt like you just were really good at doing difficult things. Anyways, my loves, this is my reading for you. If you enjoyed this reading, please like and subscribe. It helps this channel to grow. If you have any preferred readings, you can always pop them below. I will absolutely respond and incorporate them into another reading as long as it aligns with what Spirit is saying. If you would like to claim this reading, you can put 777 or 999 down below in the comments. Anyways, my loves, I wish you so many blessings as you end this cycle and start this new one. Bye. Hello, pile number 2. This is your reading about what cycle is ending. We have these decks that we're going to use to suss out what cycle is ending for you. We have the Green Witch Oracle, the Lost Oracle, the I always blank on this one's name, the Wild Unknown Archetype deck, and the Avis Omnia deck over here. We will start off with a bit of an explanation about the card that you selected, and then we will get to drawing our Oracle cards, and then we'll move on to tarot. So starting off, we have this beautiful serpentine, which we'll stick right up there. And then we have Chiron. So a little history on Chiron. Chiron is a planetoid. It was discovered and kind of incorporated into astrology in the 1970s. It is all about healing and definitely fits the energy of the 70s, where therapy and psychology was starting to become more and more accepted. It is also orbiting between Saturn and Uranus, which is the barrier between the old world, so the 7 original planets, and then the new world, the outer planets. And so Chiron is this archetype of wounded healing. He's a figure in Greek mythology who was born visibly disabled, the product of violence, and transmuted his pain by becoming a teacher and healer, and still ended up suffering. And so when we're talking about what cycle is ending, I do think a cycle of trauma is ending, or a cycle of deep processing. You may be in therapy, you may have been through a lot, but whatever is ending is around Chiron. Now, this is a timeless reading, but I do think it's important to note that around this time, Chiron has just moved into Taurus for the first time in a long time. And so whenever you're seeing this, we're kind of in this energy of transition. And you might even want to look back when Chiron went into Taurus. This is the first ingress. It will re-enter Taurus in 2027 again after a retrograde through the end of 2026. But I think regardless of when you see this, 6 months from now, 5 years from now, go back and see when Chiron made its first ingress into Taurus, and see what was happening then. I think there might be some answers about this. Anywho, let's get into what cycle is ending. More information on this. This deck is so hard to shuffle. I've got small little hands and it's circular. Okay. Oh, we have, I think we'll take the top one because it's 3. If we had 2, I would do that. The Sustainer. Yeah, you have been spinning some wheels. You've been creating some stuff. You have been holding it together. I also find it real fascinating. Look at the colors. They are literally the same. The Sustainer. You have been holding things together. You have been carrying things through. You have been producing things. 1 second. As pile number 1 would know, my small dog has been on crack today. Reggie, there's nothing there. Mommy moved it. But let's get another deck to keep looking. But yeah, this is big healing energy. Also maybe a bit of like overdoing it when it comes to like holding things together. I have a sense we might be needing to let some things fall apart. Oh, Jesus. I'm not gonna take any of those because that's just a lot. Let me rearrange this and let me shuffle. All right, we have snow, rest and contemplation. Yep, we have been doing too much. This cycle that is ending is a cycle of overwork. Not necessarily, I think it's your fault. I just think you've had a lot to do, and I think you've been pushed to process a lot emotionally in this last cycle. And fog, obscuring, feeling lost. Yep. Okay. Already feeling this shaping. And then let me just pull all these before we get into them. Let's pull from the Lost Oracle. Lost. Okay. So we have fog, lost. Yeah, there's a sense of wandering. Also, a part of the story of Chiron is this story of never belonging, not fitting in. It feels like this group and the cycle that you're ending is a cycle and a feeling of like not having quite a place to be. With the Sustainer, it feels like in this last cycle, you've kind of been holding any relationships you have together, maybe by your little fingies, your little fingernails. But there is an element here of you needing to, I don't want to say that, but there is going to be a big shift. The ending of this cycle is a huge shift in your life. Also, bottom of the deck, 4 of Wands. The next cycle, because I'm talking about it, the next cycle is about you belonging. And a part of that is healing your Chiron wound, which, to be fair, is never healable. That's a part of the Chiron story, is that you can never heal it. But other people can come in and intercede for you, can come in and take pressure off of you. Chiron, if you want to know how he ended, Chiron was part god, part I can't remember what his mom was. I think his mom was like a nymph or something. And basically, I can't remember which god it was, but it was either, I think it was either Neptune or Jupiter, changed into a horse to cover up that they were assaulting someone. And Chiron was then born out of that assault. So Chiron was then adopted by his uncle Apollo, who taught him how to heal and taught him about medicine. But as he was teaching one of his students, I think it was Hercules actually, he ended up getting wounded accidentally by a barb, an arrow with a barb on it that was poisoned. And while he was immortal, he was still like bleeding out daily. So he felt horrible. He's in horrible pain all the time. He just can't die. And so what he did was he went to the gods and he used his pain to free Prometheus, the being who gave fire to humans. And the gods, in response to his sacrifice and his compassion, makes me emotional, put him up as a constellation in the sky. And so this story to me feels like you have been sacrificing yourself in this last cycle, or really trying to make yourself valuable. And as you're going through this transition, this ending of this cycle, you're starting to feel lost because you have started to heal. And a part of that healing is no longer kind of um, changing yourself in order to belong. And so now you're like, well, if I'm not forcing myself to belong all the time, who am I? And so we have lost choose joy as your compass. And I think it is about shifting what drives you in life from, being you making other people feel comfortable and good about themselves and you making yourself feel comfortable and good about yourself. But let's look into the tarot and see what this cycle is about. Six of Wands, Five of Cups, very chronic, this Five of Cups. We get several. Knight of Cups. So I feel for some of you, in fact, probably most of you, you're already kind of on your way to healing and to moving away from this last cycle, but there are some hangers on. We have the Six of Wands. You've had some kind of a breakthrough, and that's why this cycle is ending. You're no longer forced to continue doing these patterns just because. Um, with the Five of Cups, we are still grieving. This is still a wound. It is still painful. But with the Knight of Cups and Three of Pentacles, we are starting to move away from this need to kind of over support others, to center other people in our lives, and start to view things as more equal. This is including finding more equal relationships, treating ourselves with more equality, demanding more respect in dynamics. Basically, with the Knight of Cups, you are on a journey to find your way emotionally. You are on a journey to find how you best connect to the world around you without the context of other people's demands and desires, without needing to compensate for other people's issues. Also, I just realized you might see the back of my hand is bruised. I am not horribly injured. I had surgery. So if you're seeing this bruise, it's from an IV. So with this Six of Wands, you have already made some really great breakthroughs. That is why this cycle is ending. You are moving on, you are moving out and upwards. But we are still with the Five of Cups grieving this ending. Also, probably grieving the people who are on their way out because you're no longer providing constant emotional support, constant care, burning yourself out in order to be accepted by other people. Because with the Sustainer, it's very much giving like you trying to hold everything together, not really receiving much help. Let's see. What is currently happening in this cyclical ending? Oh, now you don't want to talk, eh? Okay. Yep, High Priestess. Interesting, because pile number one got the Hermit there, and I find their energies are often similar, and also they represent two sides of an axis. So the Hermit is Virgo, and the High Priestess is Pisces. So interesting little astrology fact. Eight of Swords. Yeah. Getting the energy. And the Nine of Swords. Yeah, so currently what's happening is you've had this breakthrough, you've been processing, you started on your way, and before we can get to the new cycle, we are in the lost place. We are in the High Priestess where it feels very wandering. The energy is so expansive that it's almost too expansive to the point where you you can't really get a grip on what's happening. With the Eight of Swords, there's a sense of feeling trapped. It feels like maybe you're stuck. Like you've done so much work to try to move out of this cycle, and now there's like something's holding you back. I think what is holding you back is you need to process a little bit. You need to kind of sit with the ending of this cycle, sit with your lessons. With the Nine of Swords, there's a lot of fear around being in stasis, around not moving, around not constantly meeting a certain standard. And that's kind of why you're being stuck in timeout, the psychic timeout, where you need to kind of take a beat. Yes, we now have the vision. Yes, we're changing things moving forward, but you need to remember why all of this happened so that we don't repeat the cycle in the next phase, which is something we really don't want to do. and we want to, start fresh, move forward. But this moment where you're at right now, really got to take pause and ask yourself what you want to do moving forward, why you want to do it, how can you avoid falling into these cycles again. I would really encourage you to look up where Chiron is in your birth chart, because that will give you a ton of information about how you experience trauma and pain. But in this moment, you might feel trapped. However, rest assured that you are simply in the kind of lost part. On the other side, there is this castle that you will get to eventually. But for now, with the snow, rest and contemplation, it's time to kind of sit with your feelings, which may not be fun because with Chiron, we can kind of overfunction to try to cover our pain. And in the long run, it just leads to burnout. All right. Now I want to ask some questions. I want to ask, what are we leaving behind in this cycle? No, we get several cards. How many did they give us? Well, we're going to put this over here. We're going to take this card. Ooh, and it came out reversed. I normally only read upright, but we'll take the Tower reversed. We're leaving behind chaos. We are leaving behind tumult, and I also think that you might be in kind of a system where there's a lot of like, you have a pattern, not necessarily your pattern, just the way the energy is working, where like working, building, and then everything gets torn down, and then you have to work, and build, and then everything gets torn down. And because you're becoming more stabilized in your relationships, because you're not doing something that is called scaffolding, which is basically building an emotional framework for someone else to meet your needs. But the kicker with that is when you can no longer provide the emotional framework, those people cannot meet your needs. You're no longer doing that. You're no longer scaffolding. And in this moment with the Tower reversed, you are learning to live in stability. You are learning to thrive when things are calm rather than needing chaos as kind of a barometer for other people's feelings. Now, I think we're going to dig more into this as we continue, but we got 3 cards and I have 3 questions. So we're going to take these as the other questions. So next question is, what is this ending giving you? 4 of Swords. And we have snow, rest and contemplation. This ending is giving you time to rest. This ending is giving you time to rest from the chaos that you are healing from. Rest from, this is why you're getting this 8 of Swords and the High Priestess, because you need to slow down, because you need to rest, because you need to take a moment to sit with yourself and to allow this energy to process and clear. And I know because we used to have this 6 of Wands over here, it's like this energy of like wanting to go, but you really need to slow down. You know what you want to do moving forward. That's great, but it's not quite time. You have to finish this cycle fully before moving into the next cycle. And in fact, there might be a bit of stasis from old cycle to new cycle. So don't get too frustrated. Know that it's a part of the plan and the journey when you have rest, and take advantage of that rest. Don't, and this goes for me as well, but like when you get downtime, don't fall into the trap of feeling that nothing, like that you're stuck. You are in fact resting. And if you can release that, then you won't have to deal with this 8 of Swords or this 9 of Swords, which is making you really anxious about this kind of moment of stasis. Now, third question, what is this new cycle giving you? We have the 10 of Wands reversed. It is giving you a new lease on life. It is giving you more energy, more strength. Like I said, I don't normally read reversals, but it came out reversed, so we're going to go with it. But with this 10 of Wands, you're giving up chaos. And that includes people that create chaos. And I'm not talking about people who have needs, because everyone has needs, and I don't think we should blame people for their needs. But the people who are chaotic and who are constantly kind of stirring up shit or being demanding in a way that isn't just asking for help, and putting a lot on you, that is clearing. That is going bye-bye. So that's really beautiful. I'm going to pull some more clarification for what the new cycle is bringing. Eight of Wands. So once this new cycle it hits hard. And it hits fast. So while you're in the 4 of Swords, don't think that this is going to be some slow progression into something. You're going to have the downtime and then it'll be go time. And then you'll be moving forward and then stuff will be shifting and changing. So don't think that like, oh, things are going to be slow for forever. No, this is just the universe giving you a moment to take a breath. Yeah, we have the Ten of Swords. Which I think is echoing and mirroring. And I don't think you don't have to have reversals to read things reversed. I think it is, yeah, with the King of Swords and the Three of Wands. It's interesting we have 2 3s. With the King of Swords and the Three of Wands, you are taking control of your own burnout. You're taking control of your own overwhelm. I think, like I mentioned, for some of you, this is either a new phase of your therapy journey or a different approach to therapy or some kind of holistic option that you're using, some new form of treatment possibly. But you are taking power back when it comes to your mental health, when it comes to what affects you, when it comes to what you let into your life. And with the Three of Wands, this new cycle is creating a portal for you to move through into this new phase without carrying as much baggage as you might expect. Which I think is kind of self-explanatory up here with the Six of Wands. There's a beautiful shedding that has already happened. Now we're just processing before we head like headlong into a new phase, into a new cycle where we have a lot more freedom, a lot more independence. We don't accept BS from people anymore. We don't accept excuses or just any type of behavior that puts undue stress on us. And I'm not talking about like basic relational stress of like having to be in community with people. I'm talking about the stress of like someone who never reciprocates and is constantly taking your energy. So just know that that is what is coming, and to really take this time to rest from being a sustainer, to I'm hearing recalibrate your joy so that you can make the best decisions once stuff does pick up, once things do move forward. You are stepping into a new timeline, a new portal, a new magic. But in order for it to be what it needs to be, you need some downtime. All right, what is guidance for pile number 2 as they go through this cycle? We have the Two of Swords. We have the Ace of Wands. And we have the Knight of Swords. Make bold choices. Make choices that you would be proud of. Also, whereas file number 1 was kind of asked to like make more conscious choices, you were actually being asked to make more reckless choices. You, with the Chiron energy, you've been so careful not to step on other people's toes, so careful not to trigger other people, so careful not to cause harm. That's not your job. As long as you're not intentionally going out here causing trauma, you're allowed to live your life, and you're allowed to be who you need to be, and to grow and to blossom and to become and to continue becoming in wild and wonderful ways that you haven't been able to access because of your past trauma. And so now it's time to make new choices. If you have the choice between doing something an old way and doing something a new way, pick the new way. If you have a choice between doing something really slow and doing something really fast, pick the fast way, because that's the ramp onto the highway of this. And yeah, you have like the Ten of Wands and the Ten of Swords. You're like, Abigail, you're telling me to burn myself out. No, I'm just telling you to be spontaneous. Don't take choices so seriously. It's about freedom, and it's about freedom from fear and freedom from the weight of Chiron and the weight of pain and suffering. Like, obviously, those things exist, they're never going away. That is a part of the lesson of Chiron, but you are moving forward in such a new and different way that people aren't going to recognize you. And some of them are going to be like, you're not the person you were before. Yeah, no, I'm not sacrificing my own needs and getting burnt the hell out all the time anymore. I'm centering myself, and in doing that, I'm becoming a better person because I'm also now respecting other people's limits and boundaries. And then it'll help remove your resentment. It will help heal, your expectations of others. I find that the most giving people without boundaries often are the most resentful. And you can ask me how I know, because I once was the one. are often the most resentful because there is a desire deep down to have reciprocation and it's not happening. So become a boundary person because then firstly people will respect you and secondly you won't resent people for when they can't meet your needs as well. Um, you'll just be like, well, I guess they can't meet my needs and maybe they're not the person I can rely on. So when you make a choice, make a new choice. When you make a choice, make a fast choice. Don't belabor over it. You are no longer the sustainer. You are moving into, and actually I want to pull another one of those. I didn't do this for the last pile, but I want to do this for your pile. I want to pull another one of these to see where you're headed because the sustainer is where you have been for sure. All of these cards are where you have been, but I really want to see where you're going because it feels like you're really coming out of some real heavy energy. The creator, look at that, which is interesting because we had the fifth house for pile number one. You have the creator, pull a card. I saw this at the bottom of the deck and I really felt it was for you, but I didn't pull it. Um, for that, we have achievement, success. Pull one, lost oracle. Enchantment, use your words wisely. Yep, you are moving into a phase of life of spontaneity, of sudden achievement and success. And by sudden, you've been putting work in. Obviously, the berries are there, but them being all together is a surprise. And with enchantment, you know, this is also, and this goes to our Knight of Swords, it's about being conscious, yes, conscience, about what you were saying and the mind and the little mind patterns, very Ten of Swords that you have. I'm not saying be toxically positive, but change your language. If you're like, oh, I never get, no one ever reciprocates, be like, I deserve reciprocation. If you're like, I'm always in pain, be like, my pain tells my body what my limitations are. It's just simple changes like that that can shift things. And it's about being a creator. It's about creating your own reality. It's about shifting your own perspective. And it's not about denying what's in front of you, but it is about seeing the world for more than just your circumstances, for more than just your pain, which is something that Chiron always struggled with throughout his story, is being able to see beyond his own pain or the pain of others because he was a healer. And I think the lesson that he leaves us with is that there is more to us than our suffering. And while our suffering is important, it is not who we are. It is a strong indicator of our limitations and of what isn't working for us, right? Because yeah, I'm speaking as a disabled person with chronic pain. I'm currently in pain right now. Like, is that a part of who I am and does it affect my life? Absolutely. And I don't believe in the whole ableist thing of detaching me from my lived experience. But when I manifest a life where I am better able to manage my pain, where I am more supported in my pain, and where I find success within it and I use it, very Quranic, to help other people process their pain. And so within this, it's not about lying to yourself. It's not about being Delulu, although Delulu does help, but it's about seeing the positive where the positive is and putting it on equal playing field with the things that are harmful and negative as well. I think there was like a study, I can't remember when I saw this, of like where like negative situations take up like seem bigger than like the positive ones in life. And you know, this is about shifting your perspective and making them about the same size. Anyways, my loves, the cycle you are ending is a cycle of self-sacrifice, of self-suffering, of giving up parts of ourselves. You are currently in a resting phase, but you are moving into a phase of creativity, of spontaneity, of enchantment, where you are shifting your reality through the words and the thoughts that you have, as well as moving forward in like a vibrant, spontaneous way, excited to see what the universe is bringing in. Anyways, my loves, if you enjoyed this reading, please like and subscribe. It helps this channel to grow. If you want to claim this reading, you can put 222 in the comments, or you can put 333 in the comments as a way to claim. If you have a specific reading you would like to see on here, you can let me know and I will incorporate it into one of my readings as long as it aligns with spirit. And yeah, I wish you so much healing and many blessings on this journey. Bye. Hello, pile number 3. You picked Uranus and the Perpite. Also, these are the decks we're going to be reading with. We're going to start out with I always forget this name. I don't know why. I've literally said this in every single reading. The Wild Unknown Archetypes. We have the Green Witch Oracle, the Lost Oracle, and I am blanking on this name, but this is a really popular deck. Why can I not remember it? It is the Ethereal Visions Illuminated Tarot deck. So if you enjoy any of these are their names. I will remove these for now. We're going to start with this. I do want to talk a little bit about the planetary card first. So we have Uranus. Uranus is one of the newer planetary discoveries of not this century, but the last century. Actually, no, I think it was discovered in the late 1800s, so not the last century. But it is a newer planet by the standards of a very, very, very ancient practice. So Uranus is about chaos, change, innovation. Whatever a cycle is ending is a cycle of chaos, is a cycle of massive change. Also, while this is a timeless reading, this reading is in the year that Uranus officially shifted for the next 7 years into Gemini. And so there is this energy of like newness and change and growth baked into this reading that I'm really excited to see. So this cycle is been a big one. It's been chaotic, massive shifts, the unexpected. There might have even been a lot of interaction with medical stuff because Uranus is basically anything we've improved over the past 200 years. And so, like, for instance, 300 years ago, 100 years ago, even 200 years ago, you might have died with a certain procedure or not having it. And so Uranus rules those things. Same with like cars and travel and planes. Those are all Uranian things. So you might have had a lot of travel. You might have had a lot of interactions in the medical field. Ooh, we have the king. This cycle ending is about kingship. Ooh, it's about ownership. Ownership of the chaos is what I'm hearing. Nice. I'm gonna finish pulling all the cards before we kind of fully get into this. What cycle is ending? Boop. Cauldron. Creation, opportunity, and caring. Nice. Mint. Abundance, persistence, proliferation. Love this energy. Feel like some good stuff either is coming or came from this cycle. Oh, loud and clear. Ancestral alchemy. Conjure your legacy. There's some kind of ownership in all of this. Do I think that this past cycle had a lot of ownership? Not necessarily, but I think the outcome of this cycle ending is ownership, is attainment, is abundance. What is ending is the process of you having to learn how to become all of these things. You have developed skills when it comes to creation and building your own opportunities. You have learned how to do abundance. I also think that this group, during this transition, you should really do spell work for abundance. With King, this cycle has forced you to own your life, to take power and control, because during it, it feels like you were very at sea, very kind of tossed around, because that's kind of the energy of Uranus. And with ancestral alchemy, it is just a reiteration of this, of you kind of claiming your own ancestry and your own heritage. I think some of you could really benefit from ancestral work if that's not something you're doing. If it is something you're doing, that's a sign. But you are creating your own legacy. This cycle, this ending of this cycle is going to force you to take ownership. I think some of you are already in it. You're already like, yeah, I had to, because things were so crazy that I was like, I cannot leave this up to just whatever. So this cycle that is ending is a cycle of chaos. And I really feel like the cards that have come along are less about what is ending and more about the results of what is ending, which is interesting because the other decks did not have this vibe. I'm going to pull the tarot forward. Let's see. What cycle is ending? Pile number 3. Nope. Interesting. Yeah, Page of Swords, little chaos gremlin right there. Yeah, the chaos, the cycle that is ending is a cycle of chaos. You really have been forced to look at what you've got. Really been forced to look at what you've gotten in this cycle with the Four of Pentacles. Like you stepped into this cycle. I would hazard a 7 year cycle because we're talking about Uranus, but a really long cycle. And the past several years, I'm getting 7 to 3 years. Yeah, 32. We got a three in there. The past, or four with the Four Pentacles. So 3, 4, 7 years, they all add up to seven. You have really had to come to terms with that chaos may not be the best process, that letting things kind of hang out and just happen is not what's going to get you what you want. You started out wide eyed, innocent, raring to just let the universe dump stuff. And then you kind of halfway through were like, Jesus, I'm not going to get what I want if I don't take power, if I don't take control. And I think this is a very forward looking reading. I can already tell the energy is like ahead of me. It's almost like I'm walking and like the steps are showing up with the Empress, with this energy. You have been forced by Uranus to be like, no, I'm not going to just let you blow through my life and wreck everything and push me around, and I'm not just going to let the universe work on me, because the last few years I did that and it was not what I wanted and it was not fun and I didn't appreciate it. And so there is this energy of you being like, I am done with this. I am moving through it. I feel like a lot of you are already getting to this kind of King Empress energy where you're like, no, we're not playing these games anymore. I was fine with kind of fruitling around for the first few years of my life, but now I am claiming stuff. I am doing energetic practices to get abundance. I am investing in my future. I'm not leaving things up to chance. Uranus has taught me the lesson that chance isn't always the direction I would like to go. And yeah, you have learned some stuff about fluidity, but we got Four of Wands on the bottom of the deck, which was also on the bottom of pile number two's deck. There's like a sense of stability that you want, that you're like, yeah, I did the Uranian thing and now I want to lock in. And now I want to like settle and dig into a different version of life. Yeah. And then we have Five of Swords. Interesting, we got the Well, which is an additional card in this deck. It's not in the traditional tarot. And this is about depth and pulling on your deeper emotions and connecting to things beyond the surface. It's also about wishes and dreams come true. With the Five of Swords, I think there might have been a bit of conflict in the beginning of your life around what you want. And this ending is demanding that you really dig down and go, what are my dreams? What do I genuinely want to happen? What are my desires? What is essential to me as a person? When I get into this well, what is the most important thing to me? What is the most valuable thing? What speaks to me? You're not just going off of whatever happens, happens anymore. And I don't think that all of you are like these spontaneous, chaotic people. I think some of you just weren't told, or like weren't like, you may not have had a lot of adult guidance, or just the adults in your life didn't tell you that, yeah, if you don't pick something, it doesn't just happen for you. Because I at least know, talking to adults when I was younger, it always was kind of like, and then my life just existed. And I think a lot of us, depending on your generation, got sorry, are getting into life and being like, oh, it doesn't just happen to you. You kind of have to really dig in and make choices specifically to what you want, or you will legitimately get anything. So with the Five of Swords, I think there was a bit of confusion early on, and definitely at the beginning of this cycle. But now we've gotten to the point where we're like, no, I really have to get clear with what I want so that I can call that energy in. King of Cups stuck to my hand. Yeah, all of this king, empress, all of this energy is you needing to lock in. Uranus, I think sometimes we can minimize the planet Uranus down to like an archetype of chaos and um, kind of like wildness, and like it only tends to chaos. But I think what the chaos of Uranus teaches us is the value of boundaries, is the value of decisions, is the value of a path. Now, it also teaches us that the path is not always clear, it's not always straight, it's not always going to be exactly what we think it's going to be. But it also teaches us to stand in our power and to claim what we want, because if we don't, Uranus is just going to eat that baby right on out of there, and we're not going to know what happened. We're going to be very confused. And so, with this energy, you are moving into a time where you're like, no, I am absolutely going to claim what I deserve, because if I don't claim it, I will get pretty much just anything. And that's not really what you want. Do you have some set dreams and goals and desires now that you've lived a little? And also, if you're like really young watching this, this pile may not be for you quite yet. I would look at pile 1 or 2. Specifically, I'm feeling maybe 1. But if you have some years on you, like 25 and up, or if you just feel like you've been through a lot, it could be 22 and up. This pile definitely has mileage on them. I'll just say that. All right, now I want to ask, what are we leaving behind in this cycle? Boop. 8 of Cups. So the leave behind of all leave behinds. Yeah, and it also feels like you're like, yeah, I've already left it behind, Abigail. We're not playing with this bullshit anymore. Excuse me while I take a little drink. Yeah, there's just a really strong energy of, oh, I am gone. Also, with the 8 of Cups, this is about leaving behind emotional patterns and connections. I think something you're leaving behind is relationships that no longer serve you, people who, aren't committed enough, or who can't really settle down, not necessarily in a traditional way, but like cannot settle into something. Like if you have a need, or you want to make a plan with someone and they just cannot get it pinned down, you're leaving behind people who are basically wasting your emotional energy and who aren't really committed for the long haul. Doesn't mean that all of your relationships are like super serious, but it does mean that like when you are serious, you make sure that the people you are engaging in serious relationships also have like a level of maturity and stability. You know, there's also a bit of a craving here. It feels like you kind of felt stuck. Part of the reason why all this is so progressive is I feel like you felt stuck in this cycle longer than you felt necessary. You're like, do I really have to stay here and learn that again? And so you're moving behind this energy of constant repeated lessons to make sure that you've absolutely got it. You're like, thank you, universe. I heard you loud and clear. So, yeah, just a big energy of being like, and I am finished with this BS. And like I said, it's giving an indication that a lot of you are like right out the door from this cycle. You're like, yeah, but yeah, I'm already well on my way past this chaotic bullshit. Um, Next question. What did I gain from this last cycle? Where are you, little card? Boop, boop. I will take these 2 and I'll ignore these because this one's been flashing me. So we have Page of Pentacles and we have the Judgment card. What did you gain? You gained perspective. You gained insight on what you want next, on the things that you want to start, on the things that you would like to invest in. And with Judgment, you learned how to end things. You learned how to finalize something. You learned how to be held accountable. There's just a huge feeling of maturity, not necessarily like seriousness, but of like maturity, of a journey of maturing. I mean, even if you look down this side, we have like very mature figures over here, while we have like younger figures in here. And so you have learned the value of ending, you've learned the value of responsibility. And I'm not talking like boomer responsibility, just responsibility like towards the planet, towards your fellow man, towards your community. This pile has grown up a lot in the last few years. And I'm sensing through some not really nice stuff, like going from a, page of swords to a king of cups. It's a lot of rough stuff has to happen for that maturity to happen in such a quick amount of time. And so there's an element that what you gained was perspective, what you gained was maturity, what you gained was understanding that sometimes the things that are the hardest are the things that in the end are the most meaningful and the best for us. And I'm not glorifying suffering. When I say hard, I mean like having to put in a lot of effort, not like struggling to get food, because that shouldn't be a thing in any society. Crazy, we're still here in the 21st century. Anyway, so that was what did this cycle bring you? And now we're going to ask, what is the next cycle bringing in? Ace of Wands, new, new, new. It is bringing in newness. It is bringing in fresh energy. It is bringing in new passions, new desires, new forms of connection is coming in this next cycle. Yeah, we have the star. This is so divinely ordained, and it's something that not only have you been working on, but there's a spiritual element. Also, there is a huge amount of hope for the future. You are very much looking forward to what is going to be brought in. You have also, with this Eight of Cups, I think you've broken um, a lot of emotional habits of like, and once again, I want to be clear, I'm not saying to be toxically positive, but a lot of emotional habits of being like, oh, why has this always happened to me? Why am I always the one? The truth is that life sucks for a lot of us. In fact, it sucks for most of us. And so instead of being like, why is it me? Why is this happening to me? You've started asking, how can I make the world a better place? How can I participate in a world where everyone gets their needs met? Because it isn't just me, it's most people who are struggling and suffering. And so there's an element of you also with the star seeing a bigger and broader picture, being more connected to society and your community in a healthy way, and doing it because you want to leave the world better than you found it. And this is a new and fresh perspective. It also feels like it's a very different perspective from how you were raised. Not that people you were raised with were trash necessarily, but it feels like they were more kind of internally focused rather than externally focused, but you see the broader picture. It's very much giving king energy. All right, what else is this new cycle bringing in? This is so interesting to have these two together. We have the Six of Wands, very regal, very, very, very victorious. And we have the Hanged Man. I don't think there's necessarily, I think this is actually quite nice, which I don't always say about this guy. But I don't know that there's necessary that much else you need to do to be victorious. You just need to keep on keeping on because it very much feels like you are already in this energy. This is just a confirmation that you have moved through and gotten through something very difficult. I also think that this journey, especially with the pages being involved and they're very individual, and this Eight of Cups and also the Five of Swords, which is these two are very isolated cards. Like with the King of Cups and the Empress, yeah, they're alone, but there's an element of like wholeness. Whereas with these cards, there is an element of like externalized needs. And so I think that you are getting what you need. And part of the reason I bring this up is because bottom of the deck, I noticed these two, which this one we flashed just before, which crazy, it's at the bottom of the deck again. And then the Two of Cups. I think that this new cycle is already, I don't know that it's come into your life yet, but I think it is coming in, bringing in new relationship stability. This next cycle is also bringing in long-term connections. If you do want a partner in a home, that is coming in. I will remind you that we're talking about pretty big cycles here with Uranus, so it may not be tomorrow, but it's definitely in this new cycle, where we have, and I might actually pull out my divination dice. Where did I put those little guys? I might even pull my divination dice for you, which I didn't pull for anyone else because I didn't feel like doing timing on this. But for you guys, I do want to do timing. I did something a little different for pile number 2 as well. But connection, care, and with the Hanged Man, it's like you've kind of already set this energy in motion, and all you really have to do is keep doing what you've been doing. There's no need for drastic change. With the Ace of Wands, that change is already here. That change is already happening. You just have to embody it. And so let's say, let's do months. How many months till, I don't want to make this a love reading because I know not everyone's looking for love, but how many months till we feel a fulfilled, um, actually, give me a sec. We'll do a combo. So we'll do zodiac signs. So what is the most likely season for this to happen? And we'll do what is the most likely amount of time. And you can pick whichever one works for you, or it might just be a confirmation of where you are. So I'm not going to like be like, oh, when am I going to get a partner? Because some of you, I don't think that applies. The Two of Cups can also just be like community and care. The Four of Wands is like a home and belonging. So when am I going to feel this sense of stability, belonging, and connection in whatever form it works for you? All right, so we have Taurus season. So for some of you, this time frame is going to happen around Taurus season. This is a timeless reading, so whenever you read it, however many months Taurus season is from here, let me count from where it is from mine. uh, so I should probably just, I'm really bad at math if you don't know. I'm just going to subtract. So technically it was like 10 seasons from now. But we have the 6 month. I also think that it might just be that embodiment of Taurus energy, which is this sense of stability, comfort, and abundance is coming through. Also, maybe a person entering your life is a Taurus. With the six, I do think we're looking at like within a 6 month time frame, you are going to start to feel this, mostly because most of you are already pretty much out of this ending. This ending is basically over. This is a confirmation that it is over for you, mostly. So within this time frame of 6 months, with this element of Taurus kind of being putting over, I'm going to pull this, see what we get. The sun. Yeah, I don't think that this cycle is going to take longer than a year, longer than the cycle of the sun. So I think 6 months is like around the time that you're going to kind of feel stable. You can have stuff coming in earlier. It's just when you feel Taurian, when you feel as though things are locked in, when you feel as though things have stabilized, that's 6 months is around that time, which is not a long time for you, depending on where you're at, which is what I remind myself of all the time. So know that these things are coming in super soon, especially with the wands involved. We have, Six of Wands, we have Four of Wands, and the Ace of Wands. There's an element of speed coming in here. With the Hanged One, there's not really any way that you can speed it up, but you know what? That's actually a positive thing because it means that you've been doing something good and that you've been really committed to your dreams and desires. And I think you deserve to get a little pat on the back for that because it's not easy. None of this is easy. But yeah, so for you all, kudos for this massive cycle that you are wrapping up. Stand in your power, stand in your king energy, stand in your ancestral alchemy, creating the legacy that you want for yourself. We didn't really focus too much on this, but I think it really ties in well to like what is coming in. With Mint, we have abundance, persistence, and my ADHD whipping my ass. Proliferation. I have dyslexia too. Proliferation. I would work with Mint in your manifestation spells if you do them. Creation, opportunity, caring. You putting energy out into the world is going to return to you. And the energy that you put in, even if you haven't felt it quite yet, is going to come back. So do not give up hope that you are going to see stuff, especially if maybe you're not quite where a lot of this group is. Maybe you're closer to the beginning of this transition and you're letting stuff go, but you definitely feel this energy of stabilization, even though nothing in your surroundings is pointing to you being stabilized. That is proof that you are in this pile and that you're just in an earlier phase. But know that these things are shifting and changing. If you are in an earlier phase and you're not quite to the edge of this, then I would say we're looking more at a year. So keep that in mind. Or 10 months based on where I'm at currently. But I really want to encourage you to believe in this future. You have done so much work and you have gone through so many things in the past few years to become this matured, stabilized version of you. In fact, I want to pull one card, one final. Yep, that was fast. Knight of Cups. Yeah, stay true to your dreams. Continue on the emotional journey that you're on because you are on the right path. You are feeling a sense of stabilization. I think it's also very Uranus that you're feeling a sense of stabilization before any of it has actually shown up. You're like, yeah, it's going to be stable. That is kind of Uranian, this kind of belief in what might feel impossible in the moment. And know that you're on the right track and that you don't really need to change anything. You just need to continue with the consistency and with the drive that you already have, with maybe some more rest sprinkled in, because the Hanged Man does talk about kind of slowing down. But there's a lot of success and power coming for you, pile number 3. I'm very excited for you. Um, if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. It helps this channel to grow. If you have any comments or if this felt aligned, you can pop in the comments. If you would like to claim this reading, you can put 444 in the comments because we got this card and had it peeking at us the whole time. Also, if you write a comment about a specific kind of reading you would like me to do, I'm more than happy to incorporate that as long as it aligns with spirit. Anyways, I wish you so many blessings as you end this cycle and move into this new one. Best of luck, my loves. Bye.